From Daily Trust News Center, this is News Hour.
Tonight on News Hour, bandits kill over 17 in southern Kaduna, including military personnel. Bandits kill district head, 19 others in Zamfara. Members of Cross River State Assembly sacked by Federal High Court. And on the foreign scene, 2 men die waiting in queue for fuel in Sri Lanka amid widespread fuel shortages and skyrocketing price. Hello and welcome to Trust News Hour. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. The news in full. We'll start with security as bandits invade Agbankagoro in the Kaura local government area of Kaduna State. An eyewitness, Richard Garba, told Trust TV News that the terrorists came in large numbers, shooting sporadically and killing 19 people, including 2 military officers who responded to distress calls of the community. He said many houses were burnt and valuables worth millions of naira were destroyed. Those who sustained injuries are taken to the hospital for treatment. Youths from the affected community on Monday resorted to roadblocks, stopping and searching vehicles that are plying the roads. The eyewitness said police, in the process of dismantling the roadblocks by the youth, shot a taxi driver, a resident of Kutsit in Zongonkataf local government area, a border community with Kafanchan town in Jama'a local government. This triggered protests by the youths to the Kafanchan Police Area Command, demanding for justice. The protests later turned to violence in the area, but security operatives were quick to restore law and order. Meanwhile, Kaduna State government has declared 24 hours curfew in Jama'a and Kaura local government areas of the state to have absolute control of the situation. Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle has condoled with victims of terrorist attacks in Bukuyum, Bungudu, and Maru local government areas of the state. He said he is deeply saddened by recent bandit attacks on some communities in the state, which several lives were lost as the result. The governor, in a statement by his special advisor on public enlightenment, media and communication, Zailani Bappa, said the dastardly and cowardly attacks are coming at a time when peace is fast improving in the state, but it will not deter the efforts of his administration at achieving it. He described it as unfortunate that these attacks are coming at a time when the state is experiencing improved peace. The statement is quoted as saying, however, these attacks and other isolated cases of banditry activities across the state will not deter the efforts of the state government at ensuring a peaceful Zamfara state. While condoling with the families of the victims whose lives were lost in the attacks, Governor Matawalle ordered the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster and Management and Social Development to immediately release relief materials to all victims of the attack and their families. Recall that bandits killed at least 24 people, including the village head and 3 other traditional title holders on Sunday when they attacked Ganar Kiawa, a village in Bukuyum local government area of Zamfara State. Still on security, Zamfara State government says it has employed about 4,200 community protection guards to tackle cases of kidnapping, banditry and other crimes in the state. Information Commissioner Ibrahim Dosara and his counterpart, Internal Security and Home Affairs Mamman Safe, in a press conference in Kaduna on security situation of the state, says the move is aimed at curtailing security challenges bedeviling the state. Fatima Saleh Ladan has more.
The commissioner says the community protection guards comprised of ex-servicemen, volunteer men and other patriotic citizens in Zamfara State to complement the effort of security operatives for confronting these bandits in their enclave with a view to curtailing the menace.
The government also recruited 4,200 community protection guards, CPG, comprising of our ex-servicemen, volunteer, able-bodied men, and other patriotic citizens with Zamfara State at their heart to support the security operatives to confront these bandits in their enclaves with a view to curtailing the unhealthy situation. It may interest you, the members of the pen profession, to note that these 4,200 CPGs have already commenced the basic training and are now collaborating with our security operatives in chasing the bandits.
The Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Mohammed Ibrahim Safe, says though the initial dialogue with the bandits yielded relative peace, as majority of them succumbed to the peace process, but the few ones refused to lay their arms and are still attacking innocent citizens in the state. He says that government is on top of the situation.
You could remember the concept, the Dr. Bello Muhammad Matawale's concept of Zaruga in the various senatorial districts, because the rehabilitation in this case is for both. Those who accepted our sulhu and they joined us, they had the difficulty in remaining in the very dark terrain. And then those who suffered from the activities of bandits. It is going on so that they will be fully integrated. I give you a situation where very recently a bandit on his own came to me to say that he is tired of that living in the bush. And let me tell you, he surrendered his weapon to me. I don't know whether he has taken me alone, not to talk that he went to His Excellency, which will reflect some pecuniary intentions. Abi, if he had gone straight with his weapons to His Excellency, maybe he will be thinking he will be instantly rewarded with some. He just came to me as a person who felt within him, something divine came to him, that his living is not a human living.
The commissioners expressed hope that the state will regain back its lost glory as one of the most peaceful states in the country. Fatima Salaladan, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Emir of Kefi Shehu Musa and Etsu Karu Luka Panyababa say peace between farmers and herders is imperative for sustainable development in their domains. The traditional rulers said this when a team of peace advocacy visited them in their palaces in Kefi and Karu, Nasarawa State. The report.
The two traditional rulers of Kefi and Karu in Nasarawa State, Shehu Musa and Luka Panyababa, respectively, while commending the effort of the peace advocacy team, stressed that peace is paramount in every human endeavor. They said on their part, they are doing everything possible to ensure that residents of their domains continue to live in peace with one another, irrespective of their tribe, religion, and political affiliations. They call on people to, as a matter of tolerance to one another, treat issues without sentiment for the sustenance of peace in the society. The monarchs maintain that history has it that farmers and herders were like people of the same family, thereby advise them to remember history and live like before for the benefit of all. This thing you are doing will bring more understanding among herders and farmers, as well as peace in the society. As you said in your speech, farmers and herders are living in peace, but the latest changes in the society bring some misunderstandings. Before now, farmers and herders were very close to each other. Farmers applied fertilizers to get more yield and allow herders to use the waste in the farm. I remember our grandparents, while going to farm, they don't go with food but drink milk from Fulanis. I can remember many Fulanis, even those that live here, when my grandparents were in position of leadership. Right from when we were in Old Karu. The peace advocacy team also had interaction with farmers and herders in villages of Gunduma and Gwanjaba, Basa in Karu, Kefi and Kokona local government areas of the state. We are important of peace, was told by the leader of the team, who is an aide to the Nasarawa State Governor, Khadija Adamu.
We should all love ourselves and be our brothers' keepers. We should try our best to always be on the same page and help one another. God made some people farmers, while others herders. Tracing back to history, if a farmer sees a herder stops at his farm, he becomes happy, and it's the other way round for the herders too. They always wish to help each other because they need one another in terms of food and fertilizer.
Some leaders of herders and farmers who also spoke during the interaction attributed the frequent crisis between farmers and herders to the increase in population, which reduces grazing reserves and farmlands, calling on government to intervene in that regard. Abubakar Abdullahi, Trust TV News, Lafia.
4 Kano children kidnapped and taken elsewhere have been reunited with their parents. The children were found in Lagos State after discreet investigations by National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking Persons, NAPTIC, founded. Handing over the children to their parents, Secretary to the State Government Usman Al-Haji said the state government will continue to do its best in ensuring that all children are protected.
Kidnapping is also at its lowest level in Kano, but it has happened, here and there, and this is something sometimes that we may not be able to completely prevent it as a government alone. Everybody must come on board. Everybody must work. The parents in particular, and all the neighborhood must work together to ensure that this kind of kidnapping is not to occur. However, I know in the past, not quite too long ago, there were a lot of outcry from parents who claim or who said the government has not done much to recover their children, and I'm happy the chairman of the implementation committee, Justice Wadarano, a renowned jurist, as well as someone who has sacrificed all his life to the service of our state and the country in general, has told us exactly what happened. Government of Kano State had never given up on any missing child.
The Northeast Development Commission has commenced consultation with Yobe stakeholders on the proposed 10-year Northeast Stabilization and Development Master Plan in the state. The Executive Director, Admin and Finance of the Commission, Muhammad Jawa, says the master plan will contain programs and schemes that promote and facilitate the physical and socio-economic development of the Northeast Zone. The report.
The consultative meeting, which took place in Damaturu, the state capital, was attended by traditional rulers, religious leaders, security agencies, and representatives from legislature, judiciary, as well as civil society and private organizations, among others.
It is about the Northeast Development Stabilization and Development Plan. In the Act, we are required to produce a master plan that will be a codified document for the Northeast Development Commission to work within that document. We started developing the master plan right from the baseline. We gathered information, we assessed, and now we are finalizing the issue. We brought this to state because all the states are critical stakeholders. So after this one, the next thing is for the master plan to be validated and then given to the president for his signature.
He says the proposed 10-year master plan consists of 10 pillars, which encompasses the relevant aspect of policy of the Yobe State Government and other partners. The secretary to the Yobe State Government, Baba Malam Wali, has urged the stakeholders to consider their priorities while presenting their submission.
Yobe being one of the second most affected state in terms of insurgency in the state, we have to contribute much in order to provide input for this very, very important master plan. We have to thank Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari for providing all the security agencies with the needed support so that we have now peace in Yobe State. His Excellency Honorable Mayor Malabuni has also done very well by supporting the security agencies in the state by providing them with all the necessary logistics, where virtually now we don't have any part in Yobe State that is not accessible. So we have to thank the Almighty Allah with our prayers, with all our people here, that we have now achieved relative peace, where this master plan can now be fully implemented.
Content, as you might have heard in the opening, there are 10 pillars cutting across more than 15 sectors. So it's a 10-year plan divided into 4 phases. You have the recovery phase, you have the renewal, you have the expansion, and finally the sustainable development phase. So in a nutshell, we know that all the states in the region are not at the same level. The states that are mostly impacted by the insurgency, such as Borno and Yobe and Adama, need more recovery and stabilization interventions, while the others, the GTB states, Gombe, Taraba and Bauchi, maybe somewhere between renewal and expansion.
The master plan, when completed, will serve as roadmap for the Commission to implement people-oriented projects in the state.
Nigerian Navy says the 2022 exercise Urban Game Express recorded success with the arrest of 20 suspected oil thieves and seizure of a Cotonou boat loaded with adulterated diesel and 2 fishing trailers. The operation is part of the relentless effort by the Nigerian Navy to tackle illegal activities on the maritime environment. The report.
The Nigerian Navy has declared that it has zero tolerance for criminality within the country's territorial waters. The Fleet Commander of the Central Naval Command and Commanding Officer of the Tactical Command of Exercise Obangame Express, Commodore Olusanya Bankole, said the multinational exercise is to safeguard the waterways. Briefing journalists at the end of the 7-day exercise, Commodore Bankole explained that much success is recorded during the multinational operation.
One of the objectives of the exercise of Bangame Express, the strike, was to train the Navy in order to rid the waters of every form of illegality. That is one of the objectives. The other objectives, because Obangame is a multinational exercise covering the Gulf of Guinea, there are about 30 countries participating. But this one we did in the Central Naval Command is the Nigerian leg. And I told you that the CNS approved the Central Naval Command because the Central Naval Command is the nerve center of a lot of oil and gas installations in Nigeria. So it sent us out in the last 8 days, first of all, to practice training on how do we protect our maritime environment. Secondly, how do we intercooperate or interrelate with other agencies.
Commodore Bankole also stressed that the Nigerian Navy remains committed to ridding the maritime environment of criminal activities for legitimate businesses to thrive, to boost economic growth in Nigeria.
During the exercise, as you were witness, there were some arrests that were made, that you saw yourself. Some boats were made, some vessels were made. But once we arrest like that, the Navy arrests and hand over to the concerned agency for further investigation and possible prosecution. And we have been able to optimize our training. We have been able to train our men. We have also been able to do a lot of illegal human trafficking scenarios. We did arms, narcotics trafficking scenario. So in the minimum, we have arrested about 20%. It's also to show that the Navy can synergize not only with international partners, but also with our agencies.
Sister security agencies, including the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Nigerian Immigration Service also participated in the exercise, which had personnel engaged in training, checking oil theft, unregulated fishing, human trafficking, as well as rescue of a man overboard.
On education, stakeholders converge in Abuja to deliberate and analyze the role of non-state actors in tackling the challenges of over 10 million out-of-school children in Nigeria, with focus on the low-cost schools aside the government schools. Madia Umar reports that the summit is convened by Global School Forum.
The summit, with the theme, Who Should Do What?, critically analyzes the role of state actors and non-state actors, especially low-cost schools, in reducing the country's high number of out-of-school children. The organizers of the summit shed more light on the significance of the event.
Who should do what? Yes, the team is separating the different players here. The government is in the policy angle. Like I did give an instance when I was giving my speech. About 10 years ago, if you have to run a private school in Lagos, you need to own an acre of land, which is 7 plots. But now, because they understand the space we need to fill in, they've removed that policy. I've changed it to even a rented building as long as it's conducive. So that's what we're saying. So government on their part begin to look at their policies that are harsh, that does not allow private players, especially those operating in the low-cost sector, to come in. So, and if that is done, we can come in. One, train school leavers, those graduates, probably collaborate with government to give them some take-off fund to rent places, to rent buildings, start up school. They will go on their own because now sense of entrepreneurship has come upon them. They will go on the street in the hinterland to bring in children who are supposed to be in school, come to school because there will be government support from one hand and there will be our support from the station on the other hand.
So yeah, governments have a key role to play. Organizations like AFED are also really critical because without them, as you could have seen, would not notice some of these organizations. And as GSF, we're operating more globally, it's difficult to know exactly what's happening in the local schools, local arenas, local communities. But having strong associations like AFED ensures that connection is being built, such that when solutions are being worked on globally, there's actually a mechanism that transits that into the local communities, and when feedback needs to be got from local schools, right, there's also a mechanism that sends that to the local organizations, to AFED, to GSF.
Vice Chancellor of Buckingham University, a professor of education, James Tully, who is also passionate about tackling the challenges of out-of-school children in Nigeria, says he does not agree with the figures. He argued that the low-cost schools has been helping to eradicate the problem of out-of-school children, as he has been following the trend for 22 years.
I learned so much from AFED, how they were working in very poor areas to improve educational opportunities, where the government schools were not good enough. Poor parents were saying, I don't want my child to go to the government school, the public school. In the public school, my child is abandoned. And so they were sending their children to low-cost private schools, which were, in their achievement, were exceeding what was going on in the government schools. So it's a really great success story happening across Nigeria. And this phenomenon of low-cost private schools is going across the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah. So I queried the numbers. That's very important. And why did I query the number of out-of-school children? Because when I started my work in Lagos 20 years ago, the official figure was something like 35% of school children out of school, school-aged children out of school. And I did my work in the poorer parts of Lagos, including Makoko and places like that, and found actually that these children who everyone thought were out of school were in these unregistered private schools. And so so I'm suggesting the out-of-school children in the north and east, this is just my hypothesis, maybe some part of them are in the low-cost unregistered private schools, so off the official statistics. That's the point I'm making.
The summit is attended by key stakeholders in the education sector. Martia Umar, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Concerned parents in Awka, Anambra State want school authorities to de-emphasize flogging children as corporal punishment, but adopt counseling as a means of correcting students. This is coming following the recent deaths of school children who lost their lives as a result of punishment from teachers. Expressing divergent views, some support corporal punishment, while others believe flogging is not the best way to correct children.
Or children will not do something that can provoke, and then equally you use it to just make them to be focused in their study. But the basic thing is that bullying is not one of the good method of chastising a student, because it makes them to always scared of the teacher. At the end of the day, they will not be able to pick properly whenever their teacher comes to the class, because they know that any slight mistake, he or she will beat them.
Government should encourage teachers in schools to put some things in order, to tell a child that what you are doing is wrong by putting up a disciplinary measures, punishments, and even beating the child. And like some not encouraging the way most private schools do. They will tell you, don't beat my child, and you don't shout at the child, because at home they will tell you, we don't shout at our children. But we think the federal government will see to it and to be able to encourage the teachers.
Beating is not an option. Beating can never change a child. You don't give a child beating at all. Deny the person privilege. Deny the person some certain things. That's what. Naturally, federal government, schools, now governments are not doing anything. State government, they are not doing anything. So it's the private school. I don't know how they will be able to control the private school if what you have you cannot take care of. Is it what somebody else have? So federal government should overhaul the educational system and bring, a good system.
You can flog the person. You can flog the kid. Like give him like 3 lashes, 4 lashes, or 4 strokes of okay. But beating students with grievances, maybe your wife or your husband you in the house, and you use that annoyance to come to school. It's not acceptable.
A federal high court sitting in Abuja on Monday sacked 20 members of the Cross River State House of Assembly that defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. The court, in a statement delivered by Justice Taiwo, held that the lawmakers, having abandoned the political party that sponsored them to power, ought to vacate their seats. Following the suit filed by the PDP, Justice Taiwo held that the action of the 5th to the 25th defendants is feeble and constitutes an attempt to pull wool over the eyes of the court, noting that the counter-affidavit is manifestly defective. He therefore granted all the relief sought by the PDP, warning politicians to know that power belongs to the citizens. You're watching News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up after the break, how rape of teenager by cousin tears family apart. Do stay. Welcome back and thanks for staying. You're still watching Trust News Hour. Let's take a look at some of our top stories. You heard that Kaduna State Government has declared a 24-hour curfew in Jama'a and Kaura local government areas following bandits' attack that left 15 people dead and many injured. You also heard that Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawale has condoled with victims of terrorist attacks in Bukuyum, Bungudu and Maru local government areas of the state. Moving on to health, 2022 National and International Adolescent Week is commemorated with stakeholders kick-starting the week-long participatory events and ministerial press briefing in Abuja. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu reports.
Good population health,
begin at the adolescent stage and increase attention given to their health despite looking healthy in any community. This is one of the major points at the International Adolescent Health Week Ministerial Press Briefing. The welcome and keynote address by the Federal Minister of Health and Minister of State for Health noted that working together towards improving the health and well-being of adolescents by several engagement through health-related activities and education, while seeking to incorporate their input into the IAHW plan, will go a long way in providing a lasting solution to the health concerns of adolescents in the country.
As we mark this National and International Adolescent Week, let us not forget to discuss deeply on the need to provide adolescents with comprehensive, appropriate, confidential and reliable quality services. There is also a huge need for policy implementation that uses adolescent self-reported data to help assess the quality of preventive care provided to the youth.
I'm pleased to inform you that we have made some modest progress. The National Adolescent Health and Development Technical Working Group has been repositioned and inaugurated for better performance, with membership drawn from relevant stakeholders, including organizations led by young people. Additionally, we created a budget line for adolescents, developed a 2-year national costed work plan, and prioritized activities of implementation in 2022.
Stakeholders stressed their organizational commitment towards ensuring the health welfare of adolescents in Nigeria, as they constitute significant proportions in the nation's building.
Where are we with the commitment to end preventable death? The commitment to help adolescents thrive by acting on social determinant of health. Where are we today with the commitment to provide our adolescents with enabling environment?
So adolescents and young girls and boys, they have access to HIV testing and services close to them. So I think that working all of us together, thinking innovation, in partnerships, in private sector, we can really make the difference.
And I'd like to wrap up by saying adolescents are standing at the crossroad between childhood and adulthood. As they stand at this crossroad, so do the society stand, so do Nigeria stand. So we need to invest in them, we need to trust them that they got a lot of energy, innovation, ingenuity in them. And with that, we can have not just a smarter society, but a future that everyone will be proud of.
As an adolescent, I can proudly say that adolescence is an amazing time. Adolescents are leaders of now and the future, and we should be treated as such. It is an accomplishment to have an entire week dedicated to adolescent health and well-being. The theme of this year's Adolescent Health Week, which is transitions from adolescence to adulthood, from a pre-pandemic era to a life shaped by the pandemic, is very unerring because now more than ever, adolescent health cannot be under stress.
The COVID-19 pandemic halted plans for 2020, but in 2021, while still battling with the pandemic, which had high mortality in adults, the theme of IAHW, Adolescent Resilience in the Face of a Pandemic, attempted to refocus attention on the need to not ignore the adolescents. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now in politics, ahead of July 16 governorship election in Osun State, stakeholders want residents to ensure they obtain permanent voters' cards to be able to vote for candidates of their choice. This is the thrust of a stakeholders meeting held at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Osogbo, the state capital, on Monday. Hamid Oyegbade sent in this report.
INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner in Osun State, Professor Abdul Ganiu Olayinka, told the stakeholders meeting that only the permanent voters card will be used to vote during the 16 July governorship election in the state. He said, no PVC, no voting, urging those who have not collected their PVC to do so without further delay. He said PVCs will be taken to wards for collections by their owners from 24 to 30th March. He enjoined residents not to sell their PVCs as this their power
In light of these that are urging and appealing to this gathering to assist the Commission by sensitizing and mobilizing the members of the public to take this advantage to either register or transfer their voting rights to new polling units, to the polling units, especially the newly created polling units, which are closer to their residences, are doing so to provide the Commission ample opportunity to have even distribution of 500 voters in each polling unit, contrary to what we have now, 3,000, 4,000, or whatever. This will come with its attendant benefits. One of it is we will be able to decongest the polling units, and because of that, we will have shorter queues on the day of election.
We are deliberating, extensively on voters' card registration and care of it here. And we have been told that if you do multiple registration, your name is going to be struck out from the voters list. 2, you are free now. People are free to go to their areas. Their voter registration areas now, between now and the end of this month. Without that voters card, you can never vote. And you cannot even have a choice of whoever is going to lead you in the country. So my appeal to people is that people should go out. The Muslims should go out, no-Muslims should go out and register. And then they can have the opportunity to vote, and choose the candidate of their own choice. So the meeting is still going on, and I believe this is the best thing for us to do. Let us go and register.
The exercise going on today is a very good one. Enlighten the stakeholder who will go back to enlighten people. I think the summary of it all is to call on people to please go out, register their name for this forthcoming election and national election in 2023, and as well ensure that they collect their voters card after election. And most importantly, to use their card to vote, not to sell their card, but to use it to vote for the candidate of their choice. Our vote is our power.
The president of Osun State Muslim Community, Mustafa Adeleke, and chairman of the Christian Association in the state, Amos Ogunride, as well as the legal advisor of Osun State chapter of Internal Party Advisory Council, Abidin Okandeji, urge people of Osun State to ensure that they have voters card so as to be able to vote for candidate of their choice.
Bauchi State Environmental Protection Agency on Monday flags of planting of 270 trees to fight against soil degradation and other environmental challenges in commemoration of International Day of Forest. Director General, Bauchi State Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Kabir Ibrahim, says planting trees can help people out of poverty and other social problems. Adamu Imam witnessed the event.
The International Day of Forest is celebrating on the 21st of March every year. Nigeria has joined other nations of the world to celebrate the day. While in Bauchi State, the event is braced up with the tree planting exercise to maintain healthy environment. The State Protection Agency's boss explained the significance of the day.
They provide medicine, they stabilize the soil, they protect the environment from so many environmental problems, ranging from flooding, desertification, desert encroachment, in part soil erosion and the rest. So we are here to join the international community, as we have said earlier, that celebrate World Forestry Day every 21st of March.
He added that planting trees is key for environmental protection, but also, according to him, maintenance is a source of concern for many environmentalists.
Today is Monday, 21st of March 2022. There are so many activities going on across the globe, and we choose to plant 270 trees here in Bauchi, particularly that we have newly constructed roads by this administration of His Excellency Senator Bola Mohammed.
More so during the exercise, Engineer Abdul Karim Suleiman of Bauchi State Urban Development Board assures that working together is #1 approach for sustainability.
Our work goes hand in hand. Yes. So without them, we cannot perform. Without us, we cannot perform. That's why we are all here. So please, I will not say much about that. Can you allow me to assure the DG that we are going to maintain these trees Please, on behalf of all of us here, sir, we assure you that we are going to maintain the street, we are going to take care of them. And less noise, please. Thank you very much.
The theme of the day is Inspired for the Future, the role of forests and ensuring sustainable production and consumption. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
The recent announcement by Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission of withdrawal of 600 billion naira subsidy on electricity tariffs has triggered reaction in electrical sector. This development comes amidst complaints of hike in price of electricity tariffs and power failures, especially in the past few days with the collapse of the national grid twice. Ibrahim Ismail examines how the removal of subsidy in electricity tariffs affects consumers and businesses in Gombe State. The report.
Business operators that require electricity to do their work, such as welders and carpenters, have complained over hike in electricity tariff, with some of them saying they are unable to pay their bills. I increase price to any customer who requires my services because of the hike in electricity tariff. That means it will affect many people. We don't want removal of subsidy in electricity tariff. Production materials are expensive, so also the electricity tariff. I want the government to look into the issue and support our work. If we have jobs, we won't be worried about electricity tariffs. But it's now difficult to get jobs. You must go out to find one. Other electricity consumers who use the energy in their respective residence said the energy units sell for exorbitant prices.
Before if I have 500 naira, I can buy units with 500 and then I will use it like two weeks to 1 week to 2 weeks. And now there is no any unit of 500. Now it's at increase from 1,000 upward, which is difficult for me to get that amount of money to buy and use it in my house.
I used to buy 32 units of energy at 1,000 naira. It lasts for 40 days. But now I buy 15 units that lasted only for a week. My salary is just 20,000 naira. Although Nigerians suffer the hike in electricity tariff, which may not be unconnected to the removal of subsidy by the federal government, economic experts say removing subsidy is not a bad policy.
Subsidy regime has not been able to foster sound economic growth. So we expect that with this removal, with this end of the subsidy regime in this sector, we expect to see an improvement in electricity services. But you see, we're going to witness some key changes in the sense that we're going to experience an erosion of purchasing power of the population, because electricity or energy in general are things that we seldom can do without. Nearly anything that we use has some amount of energy embodied in it. In essence, you realize that we're going to expect prices to rise, and when prices rise, it will be passed on down to consumers. Why is this so? Because for a producer who is out to make profit, his cost of production will increase because of the end of this subsidy regime. My worry is, what does the government have in place to compensate for this end of the subsidy regime?
For decades, Nigeria has been battling challenges in the power sector, which has been part of campaign promises that many politicians use to clinch to power. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the deployment of more security personnel, arms and ammunition to Imo State to address the security situation. Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma said this while fielding questions from State House reporters after a meeting with the president at the presidential villa in Abuja. President Buhari had summoned the governor over recent security developments in his state. The president equally held two separate meetings with the Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, and his chief economic advisor, Professor Doyin Salami, over the latest developments in the power sector and the state of the economy.
And there are some issues which we have adequately addressed. particularly the resurgence of insecurity in the southeast, and what is required to ensure that is properly controlled. We discussed all that, and he took seriously my recommendations, and indeed I can tell you he immediately gave approval to all that, which includes increase in manpower to security agencies, and then other logistic supports ranging from additional arms and ammunition, and also we are making use of our local vigilante and the involvement of community leaders to ensure that through community arrangement, additional security is provided to the people.
Well, the president summoned me to come and brief him, give him first-hand information on what is happening and what are the measures being taken to resolve all these happenings, as you put it. As you are aware, we have been having some issues with the electricity supply, which is not only restricted to electricity supply. As you can see around, we have issues around fuel supply, we have issues around the aviation also due to fuel. So on our own part, basically what caused the low generation on the grid is the outages that are due to scheduled outages. Some of the plants, they have to go to maintenance, and these are called scheduled outages. And we have not envisaged that we are going to have issues with gas supply, and that compounded and causes some of the plants also to go to unscheduled outages due to gas supply, and some due to vandalizations and things like that. So we quickly gathered ourselves. I invited all the stakeholders on Monday. As you are aware, we had a meeting and discussed and came up with some solutions, immediate ones, on an emergency basis, to see how we can mop around and
Alleged rape of a 14-year-old Safara Usani of Maikoni, Nasarawa village in Mai Adua local government area of Katsina State is tearing the family of the victim apart. Victim's family are pointing accusing fingers to her cousins for the rape and her pregnancy. Safara Usani and her mother, Zainab Habu, were also ejected out of her late father's house. The rape case involving members of the same family has seriously affected the lifelong relationship that exists between them. Abdullahi Ahmadi has details of the report.
Safara Usani, who is now bearing a child, was a JS3 student in Daura, was raped and impregnated by her cousin brother, Mati, sometimes in 2020. He raped me, and thereafter I was impregnated, and of course I am bearing a child. Mati is responsible for all these problems. He impregnated me. Trauma and poverty pushed Safara'u out of school, as she now seeks the intervention of Human Rights Network of Nigeria and the Association of International Women Lawyers, Katsina State chapters, at least to reduce trauma, stigmatization, and give her 1.5-year-old child, Muazzam, a sense of belonging. Though Safara Usani dragged her suitor Mati to a Sharia court in Daura, the judge advised the parties who are from the same family to settle out of court, as the Sharia court lacks the competence to listen or pass judgment on rape cases. Instead of this advice by the Sharia court judge to serve as a stepping stone towards fostering unity and understanding among the family, The situation further deteriorated, with each party pointing accusing finger at the other. We have made several attempts to resolve this issue at a family level, but it failed. We tried to get them married. Again, it failed.
From there, we'll take up the issue. We either go and arrest him and then proceed and prosecute him for rape, or if he decides to marry her, then that is all well and fine with us.
We are now trying to go and see Galadima, probably if there is a possibility for she and the Mati that impregnated her. Because from all instances, we noticed that Mati, the man, the suspect, or I can say the one that impregnated the girl, that he paid some money to do the naming ceremony. So that means there is a link already he has accepted.
In another attempt, both the victim, Safara Usani, Harandi Siuto Mati, their relatives and the ward heads of Maikoni Nasarawa villages were invited to a meeting by the officials of the two human rights organizations to sort out the problems with a view to ensuring its amicable resolution for justice, fairness, and peace to prevail. After several hours of interfacing, the Randi Siuto Mati admitted to have carnal knowledge of Safara Usani and accepted to continue to take good care as well as the responsibilities of his child, whom he named after Muazzam. You see, I know her. She is my cousin's sister. I willingly take responsibility, and I promise to do all I could to make my child a role model. But I cannot promise marrying Safarau because I don't have anything to marry her now. I don't have the money, so I can't marry her. The confessional statement prompted FIDA and the Human Rights Network of Nigeria Katsina State chapters to document the process for possible legal action on the issue of ejecting Safara Usani and her mother Zainab Habu from their ancestral home. The ward heads of the communities promised to intervene and review the issues at stake. It could be recalled that rape cases are increasing at an alarming rate in Katsina State, especially in local communities, a situation that calls for a holistic approach by political actors and other stakeholders to save this and future generations from serious calamities. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
You're still watching Trust News Hour. More stories after the break.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back. We'll now join Chamunda Bang for the news in business.
Monetary Policy Committee MPC holds their meeting today amid fears of inflation. The committee members will review the 18-month-old 11.5% benchmark lending rate, keeping in mind the rising energy cost, monetary normalization across the globe, the possibility of slowing growth and rising concerns over inflationary pressure. The NPC meeting comes a few days after the U.S. Federal Reserve voted to increase the policy rate by 25 basis points. Over 2 years after the rate was left at zero to fight the impacts of COVID-19 on businesses. Nigeria, alongside other African countries, are prepared to demand that Africa should be allowed to continue to exploit its hydrocarbon deposits for the development of the continent amidst calls for advanced countries for a halt in the use of fossil fuels. Ministers of Petroleum and Energy in the African continent will make their demand known at the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, popularly known as COP27, which is to hold in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt in November. This comes after Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Silva, stated that Nigeria would continue to push for a multifaceted energy transition timetable that would attract more investments for Africa. The statement was issued in Abuja by Senior Advisor Media and Communications Horatius Egwa, adding that the government would take cognizance of the current global energy transition in the direction of renewable energy. Silva further stated that Nigeria would continue to drive the direction of the narrative for the African Energy Transition Program. Executive Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdulrasheed Bawa, has been elected new president of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, NACIWA. According to a statement on the EFCC's official Facebook handle, Bawa was elected on Monday at the ongoing Annual General Assembly of the institutions. Mr. Bawa will succeed Francis Ben Kaifala of the African Union Advisory Board and head of Sierra Leone Anti-Corruption Agency, whose 3-year term ends on March 31st, 2022. On Tuesday, March 22, 2022, the federal government will inaugurate the newly built international terminal of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. According to the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, the new terminal is expected to generate about 3,000 direct and indirect employment for Nigerians and will be commissioned by President Muhammadu Buhari. The authority will also sign a memorandum of understanding with the Lagos State government on the 9 kilometers Airport Shasha Alimosho Link Road to be constructed by the state government. That's all for business news. I am Chamun Dabeng.
On the foreign scene, a China Eastern Airlines passenger plane carrying 133 people has crashed in southern China shortly after losing contact with air traffic control. There was no immediate confirmation of the number of casualties, but the disaster prompted an unusually swift public reaction from President Xi Jinping, who said he was shocked and ordered an immediate investigation into its cause. The airline expressed its condolences for the passengers and crew members who died in the plane crash. Meanwhile, there's no word on the cause of the crash of the plane. According to the Civil Aviation Administration of China, the Boeing 737-800 flight from the city of Kunming to the southern hub of Guangzhou lost airborne contact over Wuzhou in the Guangxin region on Monday afternoon. And in sports, Super Eagles players have hit the camp on Monday ahead of their two-legged FIFA World Cup playoff encounter with arch-rivals Ghana. The team's media officer, Babafemi Raji, said William Trust Ekong, Leon Balogun, Semi Ajayi, Ola Aino, and Frank Onyeka were among the first to hit the camps of the Eagles. Nigeria will take on Ghana away on Friday, 25th March, with the reverse leg set for the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, on Tuesday, 29th March. The winner over the two legs will earn one of Africa's 5 tickets to the 22nd FIFA World Cup finals, scheduled for 14th November to 18th December this year in Qatar. Meanwhile, the team revealed on its Twitter handle on Sunday evening that Innocent Bonke will receive or will replace the injured Wilfred Ndidi in the squad. We'll now join Adeni Ajishafe for more sports news.
International Paralympic Committee (IPC) has banned Nigeria para-powerlifter Motola Falodun for 4 years for doping. A month after sprinter Blessing Okagbare was banned for 10 years by Athletics Integrity Unit (AIU). Falodun's urine sample provided on February 6, 2020 shows presence of banned substance under anabolic androgenic steroids coming from World Anti-Doping Agency (WADA). Falodun will be ineligible for competition for 4 years from 6 February 2020 to 5th February 2024, including forfeiture of medals, points, and prizes. And in football, Nigerian Super Eagles have started arriving camp ahead of World Cup qualifier against Ghana on Friday. Assistant Captain William
With that, we've come to the end of a Trust News Hour. Remember to follow us across our social media platforms. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Thanks for watching.